A country wakes up one morning and decides it needs more money. Not metaphorically, literally more money. So it prints it. On paper, this sounds like a cheat code. More money means more spending, more growth, more relief. Problem solved, right? But here's the part no one says out loud. When a country prints money, nothing new is actually created. No extra food, no new houses, no additional energy. Just more pieces of paper or more numbers on screens chasing the exact same amount of real stuff. And that's where things start to get strange. Because at first, nothing looks wrong. In fact, things often look better. Governments spend more, businesses get easier loans, markets rise, people feel wealthier. It can feel like the economy is finally working. But beneath that surface, something invisible begins to shift. Value. Not prices yet, not panic, just value. Let's slow this down. Imagine the entire economy as a pie. Everything, goods, services, labor, is inside it. Now imagine slicing that pie into pieces called money. If the size of the pie stays the same, but you suddenly double the number of slices, each slice gets smaller. That's it. That's the core mechanic. But in real life, it doesn't happen instantly. It happens unevenly. And that's where the real story begins. Because when new money enters the system, it doesn't go everywhere at once. It has an entry point. Usually governments, big banks, financial institutions. They get access to the new money first, before prices adjust, before the rest of the economy reacts. So they spend it. They buy assets, invest, lend, expand at old prices. This is the quiet advantage no one notices. By the time that money spreads outward to businesses, to workers, to everyday people, prices have already started moving. But not evenly. Assets tend to rise first. Stocks, real estate, land, things that are already owned become more expensive. So if you own those things, you feel richer. If you don't, you just feel behind. And this is where the illusion begins to crack. Because people start noticing something strange. Their money is increasing, but their purchasing power isn't. You might get a raise, but rent goes up faster. Groceries feel heavier. Saving feels pointless. It's like running on a treadmill that slowly speeds up. You're moving, but you're not getting anywhere. And this isn't an accident. It's baked into the system. When more money chases the same amount of goods, prices rise. We call it inflation, but that word is almost too clean for what it describes. Because inflation isn't just higher prices, it's a silent transfer of value, from savers to borrowers, from the general public to those closest to the source of money creation. And the most ironic part, the people who feel it last often feel it the hardest. By the time wages adjust, the cost of living has already moved. Now, here's where it gets uncomfortable. Because printing money doesn't just happen randomly. It usually happens during stress, recessions, crises, emergencies, moments when the system is under pressure. And in those moments, printing money feels necessary, even logical. If the economy is slowing down, inject more money. If markets are falling, stabilize them. If people are struggling, support them. And to be fair, it can work short term. It can stop panic, prevent collapse, buy time. But that time comes with a cost. Because the more a country relies on creating new money to solve problems, the harder it becomes to stop. Think about it like this. If growth depends on easy money, then tightening that money feels like pulling oxygen out of the room. Markets react, debt becomes harder to manage, governments feel pressure. So the system leans toward more printing, not less. And over time, this creates a dependency, where the economy doesn't just run on productivity, it runs on liquidity, on the constant flow of newly created money. Now, zoom out. At a global level, this becomes even more complex. Currencies compete, exchange rates shift, capital moves across borders. If one country prints aggressively while others don't, its currency can weaken, imports become more expensive, global trust can erode, and in extreme cases, history shows what can happen next.
We've seen currencies collapse. We've seen savings wiped out. We've seen entire economies reset, not because money disappeared, but because too much of it existed. Of course, not every country goes that far. Most operate in a gray zone, where money printing is controlled, managed, justified. But even in stable systems, the effects are real. They show up in housing markets that feel unreachable, in asset bubbles that keep inflating, in the quiet frustration of people who feel like they're falling behind, even when they're doing everything right. And this is where the popular narrative starts to fall apart, because we're often told that printing money stimulates the economy, and it does, but it also reshapes it. It changes who benefits first, who absorbs the cost, who gets ahead, and who gets diluted. It's not just about more money, it's about where that money goes, and when, and how fast the rest of the system can react. So when a country prints more money, it's not pressing a simple button. It's setting off a chain reaction, one that starts quietly, moves unevenly, and eventually reaches everyone. The question is never just how much money is printed. The real question is who feels it first and who feels it last. Because in that gap between creation and consequence, that's where the entire story lives. And maybe the more unsettling question is this: if the system depends on creating more money to keep going, what happens when creating more money stops working?